Think about that the next time you look at your paycheck and you see that you've had some of your paycheck taken out for your retirement and say, am I really entitled? Am I really entitled to this just because I did what I was supposed to do as American? I pulled myself up by my bootstraps and I did what I was supposed to do. Am I really entitled to a paycheck from the government that says, well done? You did your job that you were supposed to do for 40 years.
This episode of Nick Speaks is brought to you by the Columbus Restorative Massage and Wellness Studio. At Columbus Restorative, every session is designed to restore balance to the body and mind. From easing stress and tension to supporting overall wellness, their team provides more than just a massage. It's a complete restorative experience. It's about truly restoring your body and mind so you can show up as your best self every single day. Whether you're stressed, sore, or simply need time to reset, their team knows exactly how to help you feel renewed. And listeners of the Nick Speaks podcast can enjoy 20% off their next visit by booking online and using the code SPEAKUP at checkout. That's SPEAKUP, SPEAKUP. Take time to recharge, renew, and restore with Columbus Restorative Massage and Wellness Studio. Now let's begin today's episode of Nick Speaks.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to this brand new episode of the Nick Speaks podcast, the podcast dedicated to the disabled community where we speak up, speak out, and speak loud about the issues that matter to the disabled the most. I am your host, Nicholas Comstock. You guys, I am so glad that you joined me here on this Tuesday morning, Tuesday afternoon, Tuesday evening. Whenever you're listening to this, I am so glad that you're here. Today, I have an awesome monologue planned for you. Really, just another monologue from my heart. We've done these for the last couple weeks, and I've really enjoyed just getting to talk with you guys and share my heart. So please stay tuned for this week's monologue. You don't want to miss a second of it. But before we get into that, I want to say a big shout out to Columbus Restorative Massage and Wellness Studio. You guys, have you begun your holiday shopping, your Christmas shopping? I'm going to get a bunch of people pissed off because I said holiday, not Christmas. Oh my gosh. Anyway, have you done your holiday, Christmas, your New Year's shopping whenever you celebrate Christmas? Have you done it yet? Well, if you haven't, I think a wonderful gift for the people that you love would be to stop in at Columbus Restorative Massage and Wellness Studio and get your family members a massage. Maybe even get those people that you don't like in your family a massage. They might like you a little more if you get them a massage, and it's really good for our friends at Columbus Restorative Massage and Wellness Studio said, Nick, we love you at Nick Speaks, and we love your viewers and listeners, and we would like to give your viewers and listeners 20% off their massage visit when they sign up online and use the code Speak Up at checkout. So if you want to go get a massage from my friends at Restorative Massage and Columbus Restorative Massage and Wellness Studio, please sign up with them online and get 20% off when you use the promo code Speak Up at checkout. I can't think of a better way to relax and celebrate the birth of our Savior at this time than to get a massage from the folks at Columbus Restorative Massage and Wellness Studio. Do it today. Use the promo code Speak Up at checkout. All right, you guys. Now I'm gonna get into this monologue that I want to give you. You know, I've been on social media for the last several years, and I've really taken off on TikTok. I've been on TikTok since 2021. I started 3 videos a day, 7 days a week for a solid year. And a lot of my content is based towards my life experience and my experience with caregivers good and bad, and just what it's like to be a disabled person in an enabled world. In fact, if you're not following me on TikTok, follow me at Nicholas Comstock on TikTok. I am almost at 78,000 followers. So if you're not following me over there on TikTok, please do so. Follow me over there. Anyway, the reason I bring this up is because occasionally I will get some ass wipes in my comments who say, you know what, you're just so entitled as a disabled person. Why are disabled people they think they deserve everything handed to them on a silver platter? I don't. I've never really felt that way. My parents made sure not to make me feel that way, because I can tell you from my own life experience, nothing that I have accomplished has been handed to me on a silver platter. Nothing that I've ever really wanted in this life has ever been handed to me on a silver platter. So it's interesting that there are able bodied people out there who believe that disabled people have a sense of entitlement when all we're asking for are livable wages, chances for us to work, chances for us not to, we're asking not to be penalized because we choose to get married, and all of this looks to able bodied people as entitlement. Now, I do believe there is a sense of disabled entitlement in our disabled community. I believe that if you have not had some good home training, and I've seen many disabled people who haven't had good home training literally treat their caregivers like crap because they went around demanding their family members as if they were slaves, and their family members said, well, they're disabled, so it's not their fault. They have allowed their family member with a disability to use their disability to manipulate them into getting what they want. That is a form of disabled entitlement, and that type of disabled entitlement I do not support. But wanting more than just an accessible building to get into, wanting to be included in everything in our community is not entitlement um in a bad way. It's entitlement in a good way. I believe there's good disabled entitlement and there's bad disabled entitlement. And I just mentioned the bad disabled entitlement, demanding that people have to help you or give you whatever you want simply because you are disabled is a form of bad disabled entitlement. Wanting financial freedom outside of the small potatoes that the government gives is a form of good disabled entitlement, and one that I champion and I'm trying to get myself. But this idea that disabled people are just entitled and spoiled in general because we get, help from the government, and so that somehow makes us entitled is crazy. I do not look at myself as a entitled disabled person. What is a spoiled disabled person anyway? I mean, you really can't to me, you really can't use spoiled and disabled in the same sentence. Why? We're spoiled because we got a disability and you didn't? I mean, to me, that seems crazy. And I heard one of these prosperity preachers mention recently in a miracle healing and victory service. First, there's no physical man that can give you miracles and healings and victory. Okay. That only comes from Jesus Christ. But he said in his service that he was conducting, in his clown show that he was conducting, that the reason some people have not been cured of their disability is because they love their cancer or they love whatever the disability is. No, Let's be honest. You prosperity preachers would actually hate it if we got cured of our disability, because then we would stop sending you money. We wouldn't need your prayers anymore. But anyway, that's a side note. This idea that we're somehow spoiled or lucky because we have a disability, it is insane to me, because it's my disability. Let me tell you, there are people in my life who say, that are disabled, who say, I wouldn't change anything about my disability. I would have it all over again. The people I've gotten to meet are, wonderful. And, that's true for me too. And the fact of the people that I've gotten to meet because of my disability are wonderful. But who's to say I couldn't meet those people some way, somehow, in another way without my disability? We don't know what could have happened. And I'm not one of those people that say, "Oh, I love my disability. I love it. I would do it all over again." Not me. Give me 1 week, 1 month free of my disability, and I will go absolutely crazy. I would love it. I would beg not to go back to my wheelchair. I would beg not to have to wear briefs and have somebody else clean me up. So, this idea that some folks in the able bodied community have adopted of disabled people are entitled and they just want everything handed to them, and they enjoy their disability, is just crazy to me. Now, I do believe that there are hypochondriacs that thrive off of being sick because they do get attention. I believe we all have at least one or two of those in our families. I know I do. So, I'm not, but if you have a legitimate disability like cerebral palsy or Down syndrome or autism, and you're not just waking up every day saying, my shoulder hurts, my sciatica, my back. If you have a legitimate disability like the ones I just mentioned, you don't enjoy it. It's a pain in the neck. You deal with what you have to because you're disabled, and you put a smile on your face because you have to. I had a wonderful lady that I used to go to church with. Her motto was, fake it until you make it. Actually, that's still her motto because she's still around today. And her motto has always been, fake it till you make it. And honestly, I've had to do that so many times, because getting up in this chair every day, sitting here for several hours, it's just painful. And I wouldn't want that for anybody else. That's why I get so irritated when I hear an able bodied person say, I would love to have a wheelchair like yours, Nick. You're so cool in that wheelchair. Yeah, I get what you're saying. You like the bells and whistles and the fact that I can tilt back and recline and all that stuff. But you really don't want everything else that comes along with this disability. You really don't want the loneliness, the lack of friendship, the depression, the mental health struggles that people with disabilities have on top of their physical disabilities. You may want the wheelchair, but you don't want to have to call a restaurant before you go every time, unless it's a restaurant that you normally go to, and say, are you wheelchair accessible? You don't want to have to struggle with trying to fit under a table because it's not high or low enough, depending on what you need because of your wheelchair. You don't want to have to struggle with that. So when people look at me and say, oh, you're just so entitled because we already take care of you from the government, and now you're wanting things more accessible. You're wanting job opportunities. We already take care of you from the government. What more do you want? Yeah, well, we see how that ended up back this November. Part of the rug was pulled out from under me. No food stamps. Part of the rug was pulled out from over 42 million people, which I've said in many of my TikToks recently, that you will not convince me that between 12 and 13% of this country, 42 million people, need food assistance. You will not convince me of that. I believe there's major fraud in this. Anyway, I and there is some disability entitlement that has to go. Don't make people don't give people a guilt trip to get help. That's the worst thing you can do. Nobody has to help you. Get rid of this mindset that everybody has to help you. Everybody has to bow to your every wish and your every command because you're disabled. And if you could, you would do it yourself. Person is more willing to help a disabled person who is humble and understanding and patient instead of the disabled person that says, help me right now. Give me what I want right now, and I deserve it, and blah, 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 blah. A non disabled person who sees a disabled person, who understands that he or she may have to wait on someone else to help them. And not everything comes in the microwave generation that we've developed, especially if you're disabled. If disabled people understand that, then the non disabled people are more than willing to help that disabled person who needs help and are willing to help them get the stuff that they're entitled to. I don't believe it's just disabled people that are badly entitled. I believe it's America who are non-disabled that are badly entitled. We've got Americans on food stamps and disability that don't deserve to be there. And that's why there are such small potatoes for people who are disabled, because there's been too much pork put in the system for those who aren't disabled, but who want to claim that they are, because they get more money from the government to stay home and not work than going and working their butts off and providing something for their family. I believe that in spite of my disability, I'm entitled to have a job and provide for myself. But only 22% of employers in this country believe that, because only 22% of people with disabilities are gainfully employed. And 80% of people with disabilities are not gainfully in this country. And that is because I believe employers have said, why don't you just stay home? Because we've already given you a paycheck from the government. You want to work in our establishment? You want to be a part of our community? We already take care of you. Why don't you just sit at home and enjoy your basic? Aren't you asking for a little much? I love how everyone else outside of the disability realm is entitled to the American dream. Immigrants entitled to the American dream. Families who desire the white picket fence and the 4 or 5 bedroom house with maybe a nanny that comes in every week. Oh, yeah, they're entitled to the American dream. But disabled people pay you $900 a month. What more do you want? We have to get the sense of there's bad disabled entitlement and there's good disabled entitlement. And we have to empower the good disabled entitlement. People with disabilities are entitled to good paying jobs, not because they're disabled, but because the experience that they bring entitles them to that job. Their disability shouldn't matter. If they're good at what they're wanting to apply for, if they can do it in spite of their disability, they deserve that job and they deserve a fair wage, just like their other non-disabled counterparts. We really got to do some work in this country about it. We're approaching 2026, and I want to see that number from 22% of disabled people gainfully employed. I would like to see it jump to 40% within the next year, within the next calendar year. I want to see the employment numbers for people with disabilities jump by 20%. I don't think that's hard to ask. And no, I don't think it's a rude thing to ask. And yes, I do consider it a form of good entitlement to ask that. And let me ask those of you that pay into the Social Security system. You believe that you worked you worked 30 or 40 years, so that entitles you to a government paycheck. Okay, so then why is it so bad when somebody says that is legitimately disabled and maybe can't work? We deserve a pay raise off of the small potatoes that we get. Why are we then turned around and called entitled? If you deserve to get a sizable retirement pension after you've worked somewhere for 40 years, what about the ones who can't absolutely work because of their disability? Don't we deserve a sizable income so that we can live as much of the American dream as we possibly can, so that we can have just as good of life as you do? Somehow, when people with disabilities ask for that, we're told we're entitled, and you just reek of entitlement. Think about that the next time you look at your paycheck and you see that you've had some of your paycheck taken out for your retirement, and say, Am I really entitled? Am I really entitled to this just because I did what I was supposed to do as American? I pulled myself up by my bootstraps and I did what I was supposed to do. Am I really retired? Am I really am I really retired? Am I really entitled to a paycheck from the government that says, "Well done. You did your job that you were supposed to do for 40 years. You worked. You didn't milk off the government." If you really do believe that you're entitled to that, stop turning around and typing on your keyboard and telling legitimate disabled people that they need to stop being so entitled and just be glad that they have the $900 a month or the $70 a month that they may get on food stamps. I do several videos a year, every year for TikTok. And I do several videos a year when I get my letters in for my food stamps, and I talk about how much the struggles are. And you would be surprised how much I end up in the asshole of TikTok. People just tell me, "Hey, Nick, get off your effing ass and do a job." Well, it's kind of hard for me to get off my effing ass. I mean, for even for me to sit on my effing ass, somebody has to help me do it. So just to go out there and get a job is, it's not that simple. And I end up in the asshole literally of TikTok and my other social media pages because I legitimately complain about the lack of government help for legitimate disabled people. And now that I'm out here promoting entrepreneurship and telling disabled people to not depend on the government anymore because of what happened during the shutdown, I'm being told, "Oh, stop being such a capitalist. Stop being such a capitalist, Nick. Stop having this pull yourself up by your bootstraps mentality. Stop having the shame aspect of being on government system, being on government assistance. Well, that's the problem. There used to be a sense of shame when you had to go stand in the food stamp line to get help for your family because that meant in some way you couldn't provide for your family. And America has always had this pull yourself up by your bootstraps mentality. America didn't get to where we are because we took handouts. The people before us took handouts. We got to where we are because we've had capitalists that said, I want to make things better, not only for my family, but for other people around this country. I'm amazed at the people that are against capitalism in this country. But you know what? If we didn't have capitalism in this country, we wouldn't have things like a Taco Bell. We wouldn't have things like ranch dressing that everybody likes to put everything on. Amen. We wouldn't have things like Ralph Lauren jeans that everybody likes to go buy or whatever your favorite brand is. The next time you want to, you want to pull your liberal crap and you want to say, oh, it's that capitalist boot, pull yourself up by your bootstraps type of thing, then please take all your items back to Target. And oh, when you get your money back, give it to somebody else. Because then if you take that money back, when you take all your stuff back, because you're not a fan of capitalism, make sure you give it to somebody else. Because that's what this country has come to now. They want somebody else to support them. People don't want to support themselves. There is no reason we should have near of 12 to 13% on government food assistance. You wonder why disabled community, you're disabled, your food assistance is so low? It's because there's 42 million people that doesn't need to be on there, and we can't get the proper food assistance that we need because it's been given to people who don't really need it. So again, there is good disabled entitlement and there is bad disabled entitlement. Those of you that are disabled and you think the government has an absolute responsibility to take care of you, I believe that's a form of bad disabled entitlement, and you need to do something to fix it. Now, if there is absolutely no possible way that you can get a job of any way, shape, or form, and you are severely disabled, whether it be cognitively or physically or both, you deserve every dime that you get from the government. I'm going to say it. I deserve every dime that I get from the government. Do I want more? Do I want more small potatoes from the government? No, I'll tell you why. Because more help from the government means more control, means more rules from the government as to what you can do and what you can't do with the money that they give you, with the assistance that they gave you. And let's be clear, government assistance was not meant to be a lifetime assignment for the government. They said originally, we will help you get on your feet. But many people have gotten on their feet and they are still receiving government assistance. Do they need it? No. That's why there is so much work being done to cut back on the fraud, and people are freaking out over it. And what they really need to do is stop freaking out over it and get a job. Because I don't know about you guys. When I'm done with my job here, which is taping a podcast and taping a TikTok, when I'm done with that, I feel so good about myself because I did something to invest in my future because everyone else has told me that I'm unemployable. And I've said, no, that's not true. I am employable and I can do this. If you're not going to employ me, I'm going to do it myself. And I'm here again to say, I encourage you, disabled people, if you want to work, you have to have the want to. If you want to work, employ yourself. Some of the best artists in this country are disabled artists. You do phenomenal paintings. You do phenomenal coloring if you color. You do phenomenal pottery work where you make clothes. Some of you could make some serious money off of that and not have to depend on the government to take care of you. But you've been told for so long that the only way you can get along in this world as a disabled person is having the government take care of you. And it's an insult now to have someone like me say, I want to get off the system. Well, why do you want to insult people who help you, Nick? I didn't insult you. I've said, let me do this myself. Just like I've said, let me live on my own. Let me have my own bank account. I can do that. Why is being independent? Why is being independent when it comes to disabled? When it comes to us disabled folks, why is being independent so insulting to non-disabled people? It's like, no, just sit back and let us take care of you. No, because one day you won't be here and I have to figure it out and you'll have to figure it out. So, the two messages from this podcast today: disabled people, some, not all, stop being so entitled and demanding of those that are around you just because you're disabled. Get rid of that bad disabled entitlement. Adopt the good disabled entitlement. You are entitled to thrive in this world like everyone else. You are entitled to have money to where you don't have to worry about where your next meal is coming from. You don't have to live off of the small potatoes of the government. Nobody else does. So why do they expect the disabled community to do so? And I do believe there needs to be serious changes to the government system. In 1989, it was passed in Congress that $2,000 savings cap. Now, coming up this year, we get a 2.8% living increase. That's pushing our Social Security checks closer to $1,000, which is then going to push us even further to that $2,000 savings cap. And if you say, well, Nick, get a stable account. I'm not a fan of stable account. I've had them probably in the first few months or years when they came out. I wasn't a fan of it. So I have other ways that I take care of that. How do you do that? None of your business. But as you know, if you're a true disabled person, we adapt. The second message to get out of this podcast today is pull yourself up by your bootstraps and don't be afraid to talk about being self-supporting. It's not a bad thing. A bad thing is letting someone else take care of you, because when you let someone else take care of you, that opens the door to letting them control you. More help from the government equals more control. Less help from the government equals less control from the government. And it empowers you, and it is not a bad thing. So get rid of the bad disabled entitlement, switch it up for the good disabled entitlement, and pull yourself up by your bootstraps and be proud that you do so as a disabled person. I hope this podcast has encouraged many of you today. I am Nick Comstock. This is the Nick Speaks podcast, where we speak up, speak out, and speak loud. about the issues that matter to the disabled the most. I will see you guys next Tuesday for a brand new episode. Thanks again to our friends at Columbus Restorative Massage and Wellness Studio for sponsoring this episode. See you again next week. Bye-bye.